Kelly Williams began her professional racing career with a clear image of her future and the realities of this sport, and she has steadfastly clung to that dream.
I raced for 15 years though in total, and it was always against the guys. There aren't enough women race car drivers. It's just you're racing in the same category as everybody else.
We have a lot of women in non-traditional roles in the oil sands, and when we heard about Kelly being the first and only female race car driver in Canada, we thought this would be awesome.
You have to be fast on your feet and behind the wheel to keep up with Kelly Williams. Not only does she write a monthly column, have a bachelor's degree and a teaching certificate, but she's also the only female driver on the CASCAR circuit, and she has the drive to win.
Women are great drivers, why not?
We have a lot of women driving big heavy haulers out in the oil sands, and we just thought, yeah, this would be somebody that would resonate with our audience, that could tell her story, could talk about the things she had to overcome, things that maybe the women in Fort McMurray are facing on a daily basis.
My neighbor used to race cars, and my dad used to work on his race car, so I spent every night over at the race car shop. And from the time I was 6 years old, we were going to the racetrack every Saturday night as a family.
I'm Kelly Williams, and I'm a race car driver in the CASCAR Super Series, and this is what I look like after racing 250 laps of a hot, grueling race.
When I was 16, my dad came home and asked me if I wanted to race. So it was my neighbor's old driving car, 1975 Chevelle was my first car, and I really fell into racing. It wasn't something that I grew up saying I want to be, but I ended up being a race car driver for 15 years.
The Rhino Performance Most Popular Driver Award, and this year's winner, as voted by race fans right across Canada, was overwhelmingly Kelly Williams.
See, my parents never thought that, they never stereotyped that only guys can drive race cars, so I never really thought about it.
Kelly Williams makes her living in the fast lane, like the real fast lane. As a professional pace car driver, she controls a pack of 36 men driving some of the world's fastest cars.
So there was the camp of drivers that said, they didn't care who it was. And then there was the other camp of drivers that every time I pulled up beside them, they would drive 10 times harder because they didn't want me to pass them. Because then they would come into the pits and their crew would say, oh, you let a girl pass you, right? But this one driver in particular, we're at a racetrack, and I was starting fourth. So I was starting on the outside row, he was starting third. And we'd just done driver introductions, we're heading to our cars, and he comes up to me and he goes, Kelly, I have nothing to lose. Like, he was totally trying to play mental games with me and I looked at him, I don't even remember what I said, but I remember going into the first corner and I beat him into the first corner and I was like, yes.
31, Kelly Williams up on the high side, trying to drive around these street drivers, but I tell you, Kelly Williams may be the fastest car on the racetrack right now.
A race car is like a racehorse in that it doesn't know if it's a guy or a girl, pushing the gas pedal. It's one of the few sports where you can compete on an even keel. So really, it's the people around you.
She always seems to be the last person to get in the car because there's a lot of people want her autographs. So she's very, very popular with the fans.
So it had so many positive aspects to being a female race car driver, but there's a lot of negatives. Like my first race at the CASCAR level, somebody yelled out from the grandstands during driver introductions, go back to the kitchen where you belong. That was only 20 years ago. That was 1990s. Like, we're not talking in the 1960s. We're talking the 1990s, and people are still saying that.
I'd be crazy if I said I didn't enjoy this job. It's such a blast.
There's no reason why women can't pursue the things that they want to do. And so, and many of us are doing that, and you can see that by looking at the women that are in this room. There's lots of movers and shakers here.
The famous 5 women left us a legacy of what was possible when we work together, when we help each other, and when we empower and uplift each other. So a huge thank you goes out to our title sponsor, Enbridge, who believes in the leadership of women and who generously provides the funds that are needed to carry on this series year after year.
I'm really impressed with the caliber of speakers they're able to get here. Women that have really done something with their lives.
That have such strong stories and strong backgrounds and have really fought for women's rights and to be in those non-traditional roles and to make their own path. And we're excited to have these women come to Fort McMurray and speak to us.
I like it that there's high school students that come so they can be inspired and think about what they can do in the future. And there's even some men that come, which I think is a really good thing. So they can also be inspired and admire their own partners for what we do too.